Came home expecting a warm welcome, but my father's cold stare froze me mid-step. "You're not on the list." The words hung in the air, sharp as the spring breeze curling off the lake behind the estate. My hands clenched tighter around the wrapped gift in my arms. An emerald brooch, chosen so carefully to match Mom's taste, so carefully prepared to say I still belong here. But the sunlit laughter spilling from inside felt a world away from the icy threshold my father guarded. Brooke stood just behind him, arms folded, a practiced smile playing on her lips. She looked every inch the polished, perfect daughter. Soft curls, pastel dress, the glow of someone who never had to ask for a seat at the table. Her eyes met mine briefly, sparkling with something sharp beneath the surface, and then slid away, as if I were a stranger on the street. "You can't be serious." I heard my own voice, breathless, as if the words themselves were betraying my calm. "This is Mom's birthday." Charles didn't blink. "This is a private event. For family." "I am family." I snapped back, a tremor breaking through. The faces behind them, the uncles, cousins, old family friends, turned subtly, pretending not to listen but hanging on every word. My cheeks burned. Brooke tilted her head, voice syrupy sweet. "After everything that happened at Thanksgiving, I thought we discussed this." No, we hadn't discussed anything. She and Dad had, apparently. My chest tightened as I remembered the last conversation with Mom, how she had sounded small, hesitant. I had called. I had tried. Jesse lingered behind Brooke, his posture stiff, eyes darting between me and the scene unfolding. Something flickered in his expression. Unease, maybe regret. But he said nothing. The silence from him felt like its own betrayal. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my voice. "Please just give this to Mom." I held out the gift, feeling absurd and exposed, like a child trying to prove her worth with a shiny token. Charles accepted it with a nod that wasn't quite a dismissal, wasn't quite acknowledgement either. "I hope she has a wonderful birthday," I said, the words tasting bitter, like ash on my tongue. My fingers felt frozen as I let go of the box. I turned, willing my legs to move, back straight, head high, remembering my mother's voice. "Even if they close the door, always stand tall." My heels clicked against the stone pathway, each step sharp and deliberate, even as my vision blurred. The weight of unseen eyes followed me to the car, an audience watching a scene they had no lines in. My breath shuddered as I slid into the driver's seat, hands trembling against the steering wheel. The scent of the lake drifted in through the window, cool and crisp, but it couldn't drown out the heat building behind my eyes. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. I had practiced what I would say, rehearsed in the mirror, convinced myself that this weekend would be a turning point, a chance to show them I was more than the distant daughter with the too busy job, that I cared, that I belonged. But instead, I sat frozen. The car a silent cocoon of shame, grief, and fury. The party carried on behind me, music and voices muffled through the glass. A sharp tap on the window made me jump. I looked up, and there was Jesse, standing hesitantly by the passenger side. His face was taut, eyes filled with something I couldn't read. For a breath, I thought he might apologize, explain, or just say I'm sorry this happened. But instead, he spoke quietly, as if afraid the words might burn if spoken too loud. "I work for you." My breath caught. I blinked at him, shocked. "You... what?" The sunset painted streaks of gold across the windshield as Morgan sat behind the wheel, her fingers curled tightly around the steering wheel. Her heart thumped erratically, the sting of humiliation still fresh. Laughter and the clinking of glasses from inside drifted through the air, an unbearable reminder of the party she wasn't allowed to enter. The weight of the gift bag, now resting on the passenger seat, mocked her, a symbol of all her misplaced hopes. Jesse's hesitant knock on the window startled her. Morgan turned, eyes narrowing in disbelief. He leaned in, his expression apologetic, almost uncertain. as if unsure whether to speak or retreat. When she reluctantly lowered the window, the words he spoke hit harder than she could have imagined. "You're not just Brooke's sister," Jesse said, his voice low, eyes steady. "You're my boss." Morgan blinked, the words taking a moment to settle. Her breath caught in her throat. She searched his face, trying to read if this was some kind of joke. A cruel twist added to the evening's chaos. "I'm sorry." "What?" She finally managed, her voice a strained whisper. Jesse rubbed the back of his neck, glancing nervously over his shoulder toward the glowing windows of the estate. "At Vertex, I'm in software engineering. You probably don't remember me. I'm not on your direct team, but I've been there for 8 months. I transferred from Chicago." The pieces clicked into place, one by one, with a sickening clarity. The awkward introductions, the careful distance Brooke always maintained when talking about her boyfriend, the sudden coldness from the family. Brooke knew. She knew and had kept it from Morgan deliberately. Morgan stared at him, stunned. Her mind replayed the years of family dinners where she was the outsider, the daughter who left. Brooke's voice, sharp and cutting, echoed in her memory. "You're too busy for us. You don't care." And all the while, Brooke had been carefully shaping the narrative, one whispered half-truth at a time. "Why are you telling me this now?" Morgan asked, her tone steady but cold. Jesse hesitated, then exhaled, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. "Because what just happened out there, it wasn't right. And I figured, if anyone has a right to know the truth, it's you." Morgan's grip on the steering wheel loosened slightly, her pulse beginning to slow as a dangerous calm crept in. The fury that had flared in her chest moments before began to crystallize into something sharper. Resolve. "I should have spoken up inside," Jesse added, almost to himself. It's complicated. Brooke and I, well, you know how family can be." Morgan's gaze sharpened. "Family is exactly why I'm sitting out here, Jesse. Because they decided I wasn't part of it anymore." The words hung in the air, heavy and raw. "I don't know what you want to do," Jesse said, shifting uncomfortably. "But for what it's worth, I respect you, Morgan. At work, I've seen how you lead. People look up to you, and I'm not the only one." Morgan felt the faintest tremor of something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years, a flicker of validation. Not from her family, but from someone who had seen her, beyond the titles and the family baggage. She sat back in her seat, staring out at the lake as the sun dipped lower, the water catching the fading light in shimmering ripples. The laughter from inside seemed to fade into static, a distant hum. "They won't keep rewriting my story," she murmured, more to herself than to Jesse. Her voice was quiet, but the conviction in it was unmistakable. "I'm going in." Jesse's head snapped up. His eyes widened, concern creasing his brow. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" Morgan turned to him, her expression steady, calm in a way that sent a chill down Jesse's spine. Her lips parted slightly, but she didn't answer. The question, it seemed, didn't need a response. "Excuse me, everyone," Jesse says, loud enough for the room to hush. "I'd like to introduce my boss." The room stills. The soft clinking of glasses, the hum of conversations, the background music. All of it fades under the sudden, razor-edged quiet. Heads turn, eyes narrowing. In that breathless pause, Morgan feels the weight of 100 unspoken judgments, each one heavier than the last. She stands there, a picture of practiced calm, though her pulse hammers in her throat. Her mother's voice echoes in her mind, soft yet firm. "You don't have to shout to be heard." Morgan straightens her posture, the words anchoring her spine. Jesse, voice steady despite the ripple of shock spreading across the room, continues. "This is Morgan Williams, director at Vertex Technologies, my boss." A murmur rises, soft gasps, sharp whispers. "She's the boss?" Someone's wine glass tips slightly, the liquid trembling dangerously close to the rim. Morgan can feel it. A collective recalibration, a sudden shift in perception, as if the room itself is tilting to accommodate this new information. She steps forward, deliberate and poised, her heels clicking softly on the polished floor. "Thank you, Jessie," she says, her voice clear and composed. She turns to the room, gaze sweeping across the gathered faces. A flash of recognition, a flicker of surprise, and in some cases, the tightening of lips around unspoken objections. "I came today," Morgan begins, her tone measured yet resolute, "to celebrate my mother's birthday. I didn't expect such a dramatic entrance, but perhaps it's fitting." Her eyes lock on Brooks for a split second, watching the smug confidence fracture. Charles bristles, his face darkening. "Morgan, that's enough. This isn't the time for—" "It is exactly the time," Morgan cuts in, her voice slicing through his. The hush deepens. Her father's authority, once unchallenged, hangs brittle in the air. She breathes in deeply, controlling the tremor that threatens to crack her composure. Brooke steps forward, a tight smile stretched across her face, but the edges twitch. "Let's not make this about you, Morgan," she says, the words sweetened with venom. Her tone sharpens. "You've been away too long to understand." Morgan doesn't flinch. Instead, she glances toward the projection of family photos looping behind them. Birthdays, graduations, holidays. Frames where she's either missing or half cropped out. A ghost in her own family's history. "I understand perfectly," Morgan says softly, but the undercurrent in her voice is steel. She tilts her chin slightly, her gaze steady on her mother, who now stands, a hand pressed to her chest. Patricia's expression flickers. Confusion, maybe disbelief, but something else too. Something softer. Charles's voice, sharp and clipped, cuts across the tension. "This is not the place for a scene." Morgan's eyes snap to his, holding his gaze for a breath. Then two. "This isn't a scene, Dad. It's a reality you've all carefully edited for years. I'm just stepping back in." Brooke's smile fades entirely, and she leans in, her voice low enough to escape the crowd but not Morgan's ears. "You don't belong here," she hisses, the mask slipping. Her words land like ice, but Morgan refuses to show the chill. Instead, she turns, ignoring Brooke's barb, and faces her mother fully. "I came to celebrate you, Mom," Morgan says, her voice softening as if they're the only two in the room. The layers of formality peel away, leaving only raw honesty. "Happy birthday." Patricia trembles slightly, her hand gripping the back of the chair as if for support. Her lips part, a faint quiver betraying the storm brewing behind her eyes. And then, almost in a whisper, she asks, "Did you really think we didn't want you here?" Morgan's breath catches, an unexpected crack in the wall she'd braced herself against. The tension in the room shifts again, softer this time, yet fraught with unresolved threads. A beat of silence hangs heavy, poised on the edge of something about to break. Ethan looked at Olivia and scoffed. "You brought war into my house. Now you'll see how we handle traitors." The words hung in the sterile air of the boardroom, cutting through the low hum of side conversations and the clinking of glasses from the catering staff cleaning up. Olivia barely blinked, her face a study in quiet steel. Rosa's words echoed in her mind like a mantra. "Don't flinch. The one who blinks first loses everything." Across the polished table, Ethan radiated smug confidence, leaning back as if already victorious. His hand casually rested on a stack of papers, his motion to remove Olivia from the CEO position, while a few board members exchanged uncertain glances, caught between loyalty and self-preservation. Olivia exhaled once, a slow, measured breath. She had prepared for this. Her voice when she spoke was even, steady, and carried just enough force to command the room. "Before we proceed," she said, sliding a slim black USB across the table, "I'd like to share new information that directly affects the integrity of this discussion." A flicker of irritation crossed Ethan's face, but he masked it quickly. Mr. Whitman, the company's legal counsel, accepted the USB and connected it to the projection system. The screen behind them flickered to life. Lines of access logs, timestamps, and system entries began scrolling, then froze on a series of entries highlighting late-night file access from Ethan's account. Olivia didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her words were scalpel sharp. These logs, combined with security footage. She clicked a remote, revealing CCTV footage of Ethan entering the restricted archives alone. Established that Ethan accessed confidential data outside of authorized hours. Here are records of the files he copied, and as you'll see, these files correlate directly to the data leak we've been investigating for months. A sharp intake of breath rippled around the table. Mr. Whitman, could you confirm the legal implications? Olivia asked, her eyes never leaving Ethan. Mr. Whitman adjusted his glasses, his tone neutral. Assuming this data holds upon full audit, these actions constitute a breach of fiduciary duty and company policy. Grounds for immediate suspension pending formal investigation. Ethan's chair creaked as he shifted, the confident smirk fading from his face. He opened his mouth, but Olivia cut in, her tone precise. I'm not asking for opinions on character, she said, voice level. I'm asking for a vote. She turned to the board, her gaze sweeping over each member. I request the immediate suspension of Ethan Bennett pending investigation into unauthorized access of confidential data and potential corporate sabotage. For a moment, the room was silent except for the quiet ticking of the wall clock. Then, one by one, hands rose. First hesitantly, then decisively. 5 in favor, 2 against. Ethan shot to his feet, his chair scraping violently across the floor. This is a setup, he spat, his voice cracking under the weight of the moment. You'll regret this. Olivia watched him gather his things, his hands shaking slightly. He stormed out, the door swinging closed behind him with a hollow finality. For a long moment, the room remained still, a collective breath held. Olivia began gathering her files, her movements deliberate, almost surgical. Her pulse was steady, though her fingers tingled with the aftershock of adrenaline. A vibration in her pocket broke the silence. She glanced at her phone. A text from Rosa. Check the news. He leaked something. The news anchor's voice played on loop. Olivia Bennett faces allegations of financial misconduct. Her own family questions her integrity. The words burned like acid through the thick, humid air of her apartment, the storm outside raging in tandem with the storm inside her chest. She sat hunched over on the couch, the flickering TV casting shadows across the half-eaten takeout containers, unopened mail, and a coffee table cluttered with old reports. Her phone buzzed constantly. Alerts, news pings, emails piling up, but she didn't touch it. She couldn't. The screen showed her father, Charles, speaking with that polished, authoritative tone. Olivia has always been ambitious, perhaps too ambitious. It's unfortunate, but sometimes even family must acknowledge when someone has lost their way. Her breath hitched. Her father, the man who once grilled her about her 5-year plan at every holiday dinner, now publicly siding with Ethan. The same Ethan she had exposed. Her chest constricted as if a steel band had wrapped around her ribs, squeezing tighter with every word he spoke. The headlines piled up like debris in a storm surge. Bennett Holdings scandal, the boardroom power play. Family feud or corporate coup. Insiders weigh in. Olivia Bennett, from rising star to cautionary tale. Her hands shook as she turned off the TV, the silence that followed deafening. Tears welled up, unbidden, hot and furious, but she let them fall. The controlled facade she wore at the boardroom cracked, shattered by the weight of her father's betrayal and the world's swift judgment. Rosa's knock was soft, almost apologetic. Olivia didn't move. Rosa let herself in, her presence a quiet balm amid the chaos. I brought soup, she said gently, placing the container on the coffee table. And something else. Olivia barely glanced up, her voice hoarse. I don't think I can do this, Rosa. Rosa sat beside her without a word, letting the silence stretch. Then she placed a small envelope on Olivia's lap. "Margaret left this for you. Said to open it when you doubted." That broke Olivia's stillness. Her fingers trembled as she tore open the envelope, revealing a simple flash drive. She stared at it like it might explode, the weight of the past pressing on her chest. Rose's eyes were steady, kind. "Maybe it's the reminder you need." Plugging the drive into her laptop, Olivia held her breath as the screen flickered to life. Margaret's voice crackled through the speakers, soft but unwavering. "They'll test you, Olivia. Not to see if you'll fail, but to see if you'll become them. Don't." The tears flowed freely now, but they no longer felt like defeat. They felt like release. Margaret's words, clear, deliberate, pierced the fog of shame and isolation. Olivia sat back, the storm still pounding outside but no longer inside her. She glanced at the window where a few protesters huddled under umbrellas, their signs barely visible in the rain. One read, "We believe in Bennett's future." Her breath steadied. Her phone buzzed again. Julia's voice, panicked. "Liv, we need a statement. The press won't wait." Olivia closed her eyes for a beat, then opened them. Clear, resolute. She opened her laptop, drafted a simple email. Her fingers didn't tremble this time. "Schedule an open staff forum. I have something to say." She hit send. The rain continued to drum against the glass, but Olivia sat still, her posture straightening, her gaze sharpening. For the first time in days, the storm inside her began to quiet. "I came back to be seen," Olivia says, her voice steady. "But I stayed to help others be heard." The words settle in the air, soft yet weighty, weaving through the warm hum of the atrium's gentle lighting. The company town hall feels different today. No grand stage, no stiff podium, just chairs in a circle, an open space where hierarchy feels less rigid. Olivia stands at the center, her presence quiet but undeniable. The gold compass her mother left her resting at her collarbone like a promise. She pauses, letting the room absorb her statement. Faces, some skeptical, some hopeful. Watch her. Rosa sits in the front row, a quiet anchor, her eyes steady with unspoken support. Former employees hover near the edges, their curiosity tempered by years of distance. Journalists lurk near the back, pens poised, but for now they remain silent observers. And Charles, her father, sits alone, his posture stiff, arms crossed over his chest, watching with an unreadable expression. Olivia takes a breath, centering herself. "This isn't about rewriting history," she continues, her voice clear but calm. "It's about acknowledging where we've been and where we're going." She gestures toward a slide projected on the wall behind her. Simple words: merit, support, opportunity. The new structure is bold, a clear departure from the old guard. Promotions based on contribution, not tenure. Dedicated mental health support. Leadership training programs designed specifically for women and marginalized staff. She outlines the changes with precision. No fanfare, just quiet conviction. The murmurs ripple through the crowd, some nodding, some whispering behind hands. Olivia doesn't shy away from their reactions. Instead, she invites them in. "This is not my company alone. It never was. And I can't fix what's broken without your voices." Her gaze scans the room, landing briefly on Charles. His face is pale, his eyes distant, and for a moment, she sees the man who had once loomed over her childhood like a shadow. Afterward, when the formalities dissolve into hushed conversations and hesitant laughter, he approaches. Slow, tentative, like a man crossing a minefield. "Olivia," he says, his voice softer than she remembers. I may have been wrong about some things." The apology isn't grand or sweeping, but it's there. Small, cracked, and raw. Olivia nods, accepting it not as an erasure of the past, but as a step forward. Rosa catches her eye across the room, offering a small, almost imperceptible nod of affirmation. Later, Olivia finds an envelope on her desk. No return address, just her name scrawled in familiar, looping handwriting. Inside is a note from Ethan. You win because you never needed to destroy to lead. The words are unexpected, sharp, almost admiring, and they land like a pebble in a still pond, creating quiet ripples. She tucks the note away, unsure what it means in the long run, but certain that it's a piece of the puzzle she no longer has to solve alone. As the forum winds down, she walks the halls of Bennett Holdings, the same corridors that once echoed with her doubts. Colleagues pass by, their nods no longer curt acknowledgments but genuine signs of respect. The tension has lifted, replaced by something more open, more honest. At the far end of the atrium, a small figure stands by the glass wall. A young girl visiting for family day, her eyes wide with awe. Olivia approaches, kneeling to her level, the compass warm against her chest. Want to know what this does? She asks, her voice soft. The girl nods, eyes sparkling, and Olivia smiles. Because this, more than any title or accolade, is the legacy she chooses. A leader who listens, who guides, and who shows the way. Quietly, for those still finding their voices. The storm had passed, leaving behind not just a new leader, but a company redefined by courage. Olivia's battle wasn't only against betrayal, it was against the silent, festering injustice that had been tolerated for too long. In the end, she proved that truth, when wielded with quiet determination, can cut deeper than any lie. Like a compass guiding a lost traveler, her resolve illuminated the path forward, not just for herself, but for all those who had felt voiceless. And as the dust settled, it became clear. No Wally,